We are at 7:07. So I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Um, First things first, I'll hand things back over to Rachel for our land acknowledgement.
Thanks. Hang on. I'm just trying to get my notes in. Hang on. Sorry, everybody. Okay, thanks, Jordan. On behalf of the 34th LD Democrats, I acknowledge the land on which we stand today as the traditional home of the Coast Salish and Duwamish people, the traditional home of all tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, Snoqualmie, Puyallup, and Muckleshoot nations. Without them, we would not have access to this gathering or to this dialogue. I ask that we take this opportunity to thank the original caretakers of this land on which we live and work, who are still here. And as part of the 34th Dems commitment to walking the walk, of taking action that goes beyond simply a verbal land acknowledgement, we are offering ways that you can take action with us by donating to organizations that benefit Indigenous communities in our district and across our country. And Jordan, are you sharing? Sorry, I need to see do you have the logo for the, yeah. Okay, so thank you. The organization that I'm highlighting tonight is the Seattle Indian Center. The logo and the mission is up on the screen, so please feel free to SeattleIndianCenter.org is the web address, and please refer to that. Thank you.
Okay, and before we get into today's agenda, this month we're celebrating Arab American History Month with a spotlight on Rita Zawada. She's a celebrated humanitarian who's had a profound impact on countless lives. She was born in Jordan and raised in Seattle. And she's fueled by her lifelong commitment to fostering understanding and providing aid to those in need. Rita is the founder and CEO of the Salam Cultural Museum and has also worked tirelessly to preserve and share Middle Eastern and North African heritage. Under her leadership, her organization has evolved into a dynamic nonprofit, spearheading medical missions and delivering humanitarian aid to refugees around the world. Rita also owns Caravanserai Tours, a Seattle-based travel agency specializing in the Middle East and North Africa. And her passion for service and cultural exchange has earned her numerous accolades, including the Spirit of Liberty Award in 2020. Rita's compassion and relentless pursuit of a better world are an inspiration. Her life's work exemplifies the profound impact one person can have in bridging divides and alleviating suffering. So for all that she continues to do, Rita Zawada has my spotlight for April. As for today's agenda, we have all of our typical updates, as well as some items to consider, including our budget for the fiscal year 2025 and a few resolutions which passed through the board to the membership for consideration. So do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Rachel. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Roxanne?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any objection to the adoption of the agenda? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is adopted. Is the PDF for the meeting minutes from March were emailed to all of our members ahead of this meeting. So is there a motion to adopt the March meeting minutes?
So moved. Cody.
Good, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the adoption of the March meeting minutes? Hearing none, those minutes are adopted. Next up
Excuse me,
is change.
Could could we identify ourselves by first and last name when we do these?
Yes.
Who was the second on that motion?
Oh, it was me, Bunny Hatcher.
Okay. And who moved?
Eileen Cody.
Well, Eileen could.
Okay. Next up is change makes sense, which if you have not been with us before, is something that we started back up during the pandemic. But it's Rachel's thing. So Rachel, if you'd like to speak more about it.
Thanks, Jordan. Can you hear me? I heard some members were saying my volume sounds low. Can you hear me all right?
Your volume
Okay.
is lower than all the other speakers.
My volume. Okay. I have my volume all the way up, and I'll just try to be closer to the mic, or I don't know. I'll talk louder. So change makes sense is the idea of change makes sense started in 2008 when I was a delegate for Obama. And what I did was my goal was to raise $1 million. And I was able to do that. It took a long time, but I was able to do that through, and the way I did that was through raising money through change, literally coins that people could give, like extra coins out of, their car cup holder, or the in their couch, or in their pocket, or change that comes from when they get a coffee at Starbucks or something like that. The idea is that if you have some extra change that you is just sitting in a bowl or in a jar, why not put it to use? And when all that change comes together, it ends up being very impactful. And I know that because I was able to ultimately raise $1 million in service of Obama's campaign. And so what I'm hoping is that for all of you, if you have some extra change just in a jar, or in a bowl, or in your car, in the cup holder, just grab that up and give it to the 34th Dems, because we would be grateful, and we have lots of things that we can use your extra change for, to help provide the services that we do, and also to continue the good work that we are doing with all of our getting out the vote, and all kinds of things that we're doing to help make a better democracy in this country in which we live.
Thank you, Rachel. Next thing is our budget report for the month of March. So for that, I'll hand it over to our treasurer, Rebecca.
Hi, everybody. As Jordan said, here to present our March budget report. You'll see the quick stats there on the side. And thank you, Carla. She just dropped the link to the full report, revenue and expenses, in the chat. Thank you. At a high level, here's what I want to point out. We brought in nearly $2,000 in net revenue here. We are extremely close to hitting our membership revenue goal for fiscal year 2024, which ends at the end of this month. We are just $500 away. And so we are, I think, going to easily hit that goal. Going into fiscal year 2025, as we will talk about later, we're hoping to get to a little bit more than that in terms of carryover at $18,000, which is $1,500 from where we currently are. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but we'll be super duper close to it. This month, we also had some higher expenses than normal. Notably, we paid for a table on behalf of the 34th Dems at the KC Dems fundraiser, which got moved from April to June. So that's a little bit of a larger expense, but one we can certainly fit in. And we had a couple months of backlog of our compliance treasurer's monthly payments. So all to say, our expenses are a little bit higher than what you see normally month to month. And that, I think, is all.
Thanks, Rebecca. Next up is our VIP acknowledgement segment. This is where we provide elected officials who are not here for our candidate spotlight the opportunity to share about what they're doing in their work on our behalf. I did a quick scan through the participants and I didn't catch anything with my quick scan, but if there is an elected official who is not here for our candidate spotlight, you can make yourself known now and feel free to speak. Great. Okay. Rachel, then we will kick things back over to you to introduce our community spotlight. Rachel, you're muted.
Thank you.
You're still muted. Oh,
Can you hear me now? Okay, for some reason I was unmuting and then it would mute again. I am honored to introduce my friend and my colleague, my partner in arms in the service of democracy and all things good, Maria Ramirez, who is working on her project that she has been devoting tireless numbers of hours to. This is Reconnect South Park, and I'm just going to pass it right to her. She's going to tell you a little bit about it today, and if anyone has questions, just we could probably take a couple of those as well. Maria, it's all yours.
Thank you, Rachel. Is there any way I could share the screen? I wanted to open up the website for Reconnect South Park, just so people have a
Maria,
bit.
Maria,
Yes.
I just gave you co-host, which means
Oh,
you can
great.
share your screen.
Great, thank you. Share screen. Start the broadcast. Okay. So, hi everybody. Can you see the screen okay? Can you see the website? So thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Rachel. This is the website for Reconnect South Park. In case you haven't heard, the community came together during COVID. Oh, should I confirm? We've got like, how many minutes, Rachel?
I don't know, 10? Does that work, Jordan?
I'll keep it under 10.
10's fine.
Thank you. So during COVID, the neighbors to this highway got together and were reimagining the highway and saying, what if it wasn't here? Do we really need it? There's I-5, there's 509, there's Marginal Way. And so they advocated for funding and they did some projects with the UW School of the Built Environment. And they also went to the legislature and advocated for funding. And so we did get funded to start the project. And so we've been, we formed a community coalition group. And there's also a technical team that was hired on last fall, Kimley Horn. And they're doing all the studies on traffic movement and modeling for the future. So it's a really complex project, but I just wanted to refresh you all on it, that it's still going on. We're in our third year now. And we're working with the technical team, exploring different options for the highway, one of which is the removal of the highway and reclaiming the land for uses that the community identifies, like for housing and business district, and of course, hopefully reclaiming land for the indigenous people it was stolen from. And so we also got funding from the Federal Highway Authority, I think it's called, with the United States Department of Transportation. We were awarded $1.6 million from Reconnecting Communities, a program we're pretty sure is not happening anymore. And under Buttigieg's leadership, we were awarded the money to mostly pay for the consultant work that's going on. So I did mention one option is a complete removal. Another option is a boulevard, transforming this highway into a 4- or 2-lane boulevard. And another option is just improvements. We call it bridges and trails, looking at connections, making connections better, because 22 streets were dead-ended in the construction of this highway that was really over-designed for the usage. It's really, a lot of us in West Seattle use it as a shortcut to go south to avoid I-5. We love it because there's never a lot of traffic there. And but it comes at a cost to the community. Their lives are shortened by 13 years in this area. And, you know, besides 2 airports flying overhead and the military, and I don't know if you've ever been in Georgetown when one of those big booms happen from the military airplanes. And then of course the Superfund sites on the river. So there's a lot of contributors to the pollution, the high levels of pollution that lead to asthma and COPD and other illnesses. And so I keep going back and forth between the options. I'm really sorry. There's also a tunnel option. And in the work of the environmental research, the tunnel option has been dropped as an option. It's not viable. There's infrastructure underneath this highway that prevents a lid to be built. And so we're looking at sort of like remediation, trails, complete removal, reclaiming the land, and the boulevard option. And sorry, they keep renaming these options on me, so I'm having trouble keeping track of them. So I invite you to visit the website. We have a survey. We got 143 responses, and we're getting ready soon to publish the results. We've also been working with youth groups. There's a Denny group. It's called Youth in the Built Environment, and the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps. And we've got a Georgetown youth group we want to reach out to, and a couple others we know about. And as our project, here's the map of the area. And it's really like a local effort, but it's got to have regional impact. So we're reaching out beyond, focusing a lot of our time on South Park and Georgetown, but knowing that we have to go north to West Seattle and south to Tukwila, Burien. And it's got a lot of opportunities to actually improve access to trails and safer movement of freight is one goal we'd like to see. So here in the area, I'm zooming in, and the area we're focusing on is a very dark orange area of the highway. And that is between Holden at the north end and 14th Avenue South on the south end, where this big cloverleaf happens. I don't know if you've probably noticed it. It takes up 22 acres of land, and it's really over designed and really not safe for traffic, for freight. And so we're studying options, maybe like a roundabout option, and a roundabout at the north end too of Holden. But these are all ideas because as we speak with the community, we know that they're very concerned about the flooding, the potential of flooding in the area. South Park is very likely to be flooded, and a lot of the industrial area would get the most flooding first. And so eventually we may need land to move folks to, or maybe the land can be used to absorb some of the water. And there's all kinds of technical terms I don't know, but you know, let's look at how whatever we're doing on the highway can benefit the community's main concerns. And they are the potential flooding. There's a footbridge that connects the community around where that blue line is. And it's to get to that footbridge, children take this footbridge to go to school because it divides the community. And you have to go on the scary trail to get to the footbridge. And it's a trail that's been very neglected, and the community has put up with having a scary trail that needs tending to, no lighting. You know, in the winter it's dark, it doesn't feel safe, kids avoid it. And so there's no reason why we should have a scary trail for our kids to travel on in the city of Seattle. And the third area of concern, as I've mentioned, is the cloverleaf. So I've been talking a lot. I would love to hear from you if we have, I think we've got a few more minutes. I'm just sort of scrolling through the website, inviting you to check it out. We've got these really cool story maps, and we've produced quite a number of videos interviewing the community. We'll be updating our calendar, and we've got a bunch of press that has come out about the website. I don't want to make you dizzy as I scroll through here, but does anyone have a burning question they would like to ask?
There is a question here. Would there be an opportunity to enhance connection of Ham Creek to the Duwamish?
Yes, daylighting Ham Creek is a benefit we see in some of these options. Yes.
Are there any other questions? We have time for a couple of questions. If you want to raise hands or put it in the chat. Oh, Chris, do you have a question?
Yes. Maria, thank you for bringing this to our attention once again, because apparently we do need multiple reminders to keep on top of this.
Yes.
That path, there's a path that goes, the library that's on 8th and there's a path that winds behind that and culminates by going up this very steep hill. Is that the path you're talking about?
Yes.
That is the one I stopped. I used to ride that all the time on my bike because, and I stopped going that way because of the dangerousness of it, the overgrown blackberry bushes, the broken paths. It's dark. There are folks who just hang out there. It's very unsafe. I don't know if you're able to get official notification to help do something about that, or what are the steps, or just probably, I don't know what it needs to make that path safer and better.
Yes, thank you. We've been reaching out to the industrial area, to the folks, in Soto and Georgetown, and a leader from that area learned about the scary trail, and he's like, what do you mean there's a scary trail? And so he was starting to research, would the transportation levy qualify? Could we get funding from that? It's all complicated because there's different jurisdictions over on by that trail. I think it's complicated getting to the owner and knowing it has to be on Seattle land in order to use the Seattle levy funding. But we are looking for options, and I think, they want to take it on. The folks in the industrial area want to battle for this. They want to fight for it. So yeah, we're hoping, because the community asks us, what's the short-term gains? Yes, let's plan for the future. We're thinking about 20, 30 years in the future and the climate catastrophe that's coming. So, but what can we do for South Park now? And that's a short-term gain would be to improve that, the little bit of walkability we have there. The other point I want to make is that the highway runs past up to 500 feet within the school, the library, and the community center where our kids play. South Park has a high number of children compared to other parts of the city. And so it's, this is where our kids are playing, right next to a highway.
There's one more question. Jordan, do we have time, or do we need to move ahead?
We can do one more question.
Okay, great. Elizabeth, you had your hand raised. Did you have a question?
I did. Hi, Marie.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Question is, the work you're doing, does that impact the salmon question? The survival of the salmon.
I'm sorry, the what?
The salmon. SALMON, salmon.
Yes. I'm thinking, besides Ham Creek, I really don't know that. I haven't been asked that. I'll find out. You mean spawning, or?
Well, are there culverts? Are there things that block the salmon? Are there other impediments, or is there pollution? Anything that affects the health of the fish that your project would then help ameliorate?
I'll find out, Elizabeth. I don't know that. Correct. I haven't been asked that before. It's possible. I'll find out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for allowing me to give you an update. And if you have any questions, I think most of you know how to reach me. And we hope to have some coffees and other events and maybe a gallery walk so folks can see more about what we've learned and look at maps and different options and how we're going to weigh the cost versus the benefit to the community. And who are we trying to benefit is a big question.
And Maria, I put the website
Thank you.
contact info into the chat. So please, anyone who is looking for how to contact Reconnect South Park, check out the chat. I put it in there. Thanks
Great.
again so much, Maria.
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
We'll stay in touch, and we'll
Yes.
stay in touch too.
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Jordan, all yours.
Thank you. Up next is our candidate spotlight. So this is an opportunity for Democrats running for public office to discuss their background, their vision, and their priorities. These opportunities are coordinated in advance of meetings, so we don't allow any from the floor. But if you are a candidate or know a candidate who'd like to be featured in our candidate spotlight, you can send me an email at chair@34dems.org and we can set that up. Today, joining us, we have Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, Seattle City Council President Sarah Nelson, and then two candidates for Seattle City Attorney Erica Evans and Nathan Rouse. So we'll get started. Mayor Harrell, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much. I'm outside at an event. First, let me make sure I'm coming through clearly. Am I coming through clearly? Yes.
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 Okay, good. A little worried about there. Well, great members of the 34th. I'm very proud to announce to you, I hope you will look kindly at my re-election for mayor. And for those that I don't know, I'm going on 16 years of public service. I became a Democrat in 1977 when I registered in the 43rd district. And I hope that my time on the council as mayor, I've served our party well. For those that don't know me, I was born in Seattle, and my mother and father went to Garfield High School, and I think my father come here from New Orleans, Louisiana, and my mother was born in Seattle, and she was intern, as Japanese were, during her time. And they raised me on very simple values, and that is to look for the goodness in everyone, to fight for people who need a voice, and always be kind in what we do, but still fierce in what you believe in. And I hope that my policies, whether they are public safety policies, housing affordability policies, race and social justice, have served us well as Democrats. I humbly ask for your endorsement. My highest priorities are going to be centered around public safety and affordability in Seattle, housing affordability and all forms of affordability, and transportation is going to be a major issue, particularly for those folks in West Seattle. So I know I've only been given 2 minutes. I'm not timing myself, so I'll end by saying thank you for all the community work you're doing, how you define community, whether it's your neighborhood or your legislative district or even Democrats in America. We are in a war right now, and I think I will be the right voice at the right time to articulate our values of diversity, equity, and inclusion unapologetically. And I think I have a 16-year track record of fighting for all of us, and I hope that you'll look kindly upon my re-election and the endorsement process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Harrell. Council President, the floor is yours. Sorry, you're muted.
I love it. You'd think after this long. Anyway, excuse me. So am I unmuted now? Can you hear?
Yes, you're good.
All right. Let me start over again. Hello, everyone. Good to see some of you again. I am running for re-election to the Seattle City Council. I am for those of you who don't know me or didn't pay attention to my 2021 run, I'm a 35-year-old Seattle resident, 35-year Seattle resident, a lifelong Democrat, a wife, a mother, 2 kids out of the house now, and a small business owner. And I ran back then because I was seeing the struggles of working people all around me, be it my staff, customers, friends, community members, and just people trying to build a life here. And I wanted to bring a perspective of a small business owner to the city council to help small businesses and the rest of the city recover from the pandemic. And I do have to say that that was personal for me because during the pandemic, I checked myself into recovery, speaking of recovery, and I carry with me the urgency into that work, into my work every day. We need a city where people, where people don't have to be persuaded to go into treatment, that they are offered that, and we have those resources. It's key to making progress on so many of the issues that we're still struggling with. And I do see hope. I do see change coming, and I think that there is reason for great optimism, but we've still got a lot of challenges at our to work with. Public safety, housing affordability, the comp plans before us. We need more housing, etc. So lots of work before us to go to continue with the momentum that I and also Mayor Harrell have started here. So I am supported by good Democrats, the Senate Majority Leader Jamie Peterson, Congressman Adam Smith, firefighters, the Seattle Building and Construction Trades Council. I've got some good folks behind me who are vouching for me, and I want to live up to their confidence in me and yours. So I ask for your support as we go forward in the endorsement process. And I would love, you're welcome anytime to reach out and find out more about what I'm working on, what I plan to work on, and help me decide what's most important for the city of Seattle to go forward. My website is sarafor.citycouncil.com, SARAFOR citycouncil.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Next up, we will go into our Seattle City Attorney candidates, starting with Erica. Starting with her.
Thank you, Jordan. Hi, everyone, and good evening, 34th LD. My name is Erica Evans, and I'm running to be your next Seattle City Attorney. So I'm born and raised here in this region, and my grandmother moved out to Seattle in the 70s with my dad, and my dad went to Ingram High School. And, I was born in Tacoma, and some of my best memories growing up were going to the Sonics games with my grandmother. And my grandmother, she always instilled in me values of service and standing up for community. She was part of the 1968 protest in the Olympic Games in Mexico City. My grandfather was an Olympic gold medalist, and he protested for the discrimination that Black Americans were facing in our country then. And a lot of people don't know this, but it was the women, including my grandmother, that helped organize and had the idea of getting the Black berets and the Black gloves for the protest and the Black socks. And, these are just some of the values just from a young age that I was always instilled with. Growing up in our household, my mom was a construction worker here in Seattle, and my dad currently is a bus driver, and my brother is a public school teacher. I went to law school to serve my community. And as a lawyer, I have only worked in the public sector. And I started at the Seattle City Attorney's Office, the same office that I'm actually running for. And I'm the only candidate in this race that has actually served in both divisions of the office. It has a criminal and civil at a line level. I've also served as a pro tem judge in 3 different jurisdictions. And up until 3.5 weeks ago, I served as an assistant United States attorney. And in that role, some of my cases included prosecuting employers that stole from employees. And one case that sticks out is that involved an employer who stole over $1 million of his employees' money from their paychecks. And he literally used that money to buy horses and Porsches, and I held him accountable, and that's so important in this role. I was also one of the only 2 civil rights coordinators in our district. And our district is big. It's Western Washington, and it would reach up almost to Canada and all the way down to Oregon. And I was responsible for prosecuting hate crimes that occurred in our district and standing up for people's constitutional rights. And so on my own terms, just 3.5 weeks ago, I was getting sick and tired of the unconstitutional executive orders that we were getting from Trump and Elon Musk. And I made the decision that those values of rolling back DEI, environmental justice, LGBTQ+, and immigrant rights, those are not my values. And that was not the oath I took to represent the United States. So I chose to leave that office. I think another thing that tells you about who I am is my community leadership. I've been a former president of the Lauren Miller Bar Association, which is the largest and oldest minority bar association in our state. It is at its core a civil rights organization. I've also led for over 7 years a bar pass program that I volunteered at and helped students that were diverse, Black and brown, pass the bar exam. And I also led a youth and law forum with other leaders in our community for several years. And it brought youth in our county together with public defenders and prosecutors and law enforcement to do know your right workshops and different things that help them gain interest and knowledge in the legal profession. And most recently, I'm leading the Washington Leadership Institute, which is all about accelerating diverse attorneys in our state, because there are so few of us, and it's so important to make sure we're investing in the next generation. So now talking about as what I want to do as being your city attorney, I will absolutely be proactive of fighting back against the Trump administration when our values, such as advancing diversity, preserving our environment, and protecting our immigrants, are under attack. On the public safety side, our communities are grappling with rising violence and an extremely deadly fentanyl crisis. And when it comes to the minor crimes that the Seattle City Attorney's Office does, because it is a misdemeanor court, meaning folks are getting out very quickly, the current Republican incumbent got rid of something called community court, which allowed folks that were dealing, with addiction or being unhoused, it allowed them to get services to stop those cycles. And so that is unacceptable. And in doing so, that has caused the more serious cases that office handles, such as domestic violence and DUIs, to take twice, sometimes 3 times as long to charge than they did before she was in office. And that's unacceptable, and that's not justice. So my priorities for that office are absolutely public safety, bringing back a new community court that provides wraparound services for folks, and fighting back against unconstitutional federal overreach. We started this pre-meeting in the 34th with Robert Foss, and we talked about how we are absolutely in unprecedented times right now and what's happening in the attacks from the Trump administration. And this time right now that we're in, it absolutely calls for someone that has been trained in the federal system, someone that is familiar with the office, and a community leader that has dedicated their entire career to only working in public service, and someone that shows up, works with others, and listens. My name is Erica Evans, and I would love to earn your endorsement and your vote as your next Seattle City Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Next up, we have Nathan Rouse.
You hear me?
Yes, you're good to go.
Thank you so much. So my name is Nathan Rouse, and I'm running to be Seattle's city attorney. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you all tonight, to share my vision for a justice system in Seattle that works for everyone, not just the rich and powerful. In the Seattle City Attorney's Office, our city deserves a leader that's going to get the job done and develop a real public safety plan, not just engage in performative politics. So as Erica mentioned, a very important thing to know about the city attorney's office is that it does not handle felonies. That's handled by the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Seattle City Attorney only prosecutes misdemeanors. But that doesn't mean that misdemeanors aren't serious crimes. So what are the 4 things we need to really focus on to achieve public safety in Seattle? Number 1, we need to make sure that we are prosecuting and winning the most serious misdemeanor crimes. DUIs and domestic violence. Those are the most serious. We need to get meaningful results in those cases. Number 2, we need to invest in rehabilitation and reentry programs that actually work, such as bringing back a more robust version of community court and also diverting lower level crimes that do not impact public safety to things like treatment. Number 3, we need to provide real support to victims of crime. One example for doing that is to establish a robust victims compensation fund to pay back property owners for things like economic damages associated with property damage or property theft. Number 4, we need to fight for economic justice on the civil side of the city attorney's office by cracking down on wage theft and enforcing legal protections for tenants against unfair housing practices. Those are public safety issues too. I am a public defender. My clients often are also victims of crimes such as wage theft, such as unfair housing practices. It's critical to use the full power of the civil division of the city attorney's office to crack down on that. Before becoming a public defender, I worked at Davis Wright Tremaine, which is a large firm in Seattle. I left that firm to become a public defender because I care about doing the work that matters most, which is supporting the most vulnerable members of our community. As a public defender, I decided to run for this office because I saw every day the ways that our criminal legal system fails not only my clients, but victims of crime as well. My experience as a civil litigator and as a public defender is really critical because, again, the city attorney's office has a criminal division and a civil division. I understand both sides of that. And like all of you, I've been horrified by the actions of the Trump administration, which have threatened our city's values in every way imaginable. We need to be an aggressive leader in fighting back against the Trump administration. We need to file lawsuits when it's appropriate to protect our city from federal overreach. As the city attorney in Seattle, I'll vigorously oppose any federal policies that harm our residents. And I'll work tirelessly to make sure that our city remains a sanctuary city to protect our immigrant neighbors and to protect reproductive justice. I would be so honored to have your support and earn your endorsement. Thank you so much for letting me speak with you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nathan. Now for a few upcoming events. First, we will be hosting our 4th pop-up social of the year on Friday, April 25th at Prost in West Seattle. This will start at 5:30, and it's a great opportunity for folks to come out and connect with community and meet candidates and local elected officials in an informal, business-free environment. Last month, we got to see Dow Constantine, Gina Top, and one of our Seattle City Attorney candidates, Erica Evans, who you all just heard from. So I hope to see you all at our next one. The next event is on Thursday, May 1st. I'm excited to announce we'll be holding a town hall with State Treasurer Mike Pucciati, who wants to meet with our members specifically in person to discuss the work that his office is doing to fight back against the Trump administration. Like the pop-up social, this will start at 5:30, but for now, the location is TBD. Once we get all the details worked out and finalized, we'll be sending out all of the info to you via email and social. The last event that I'll highlight this evening is our annual auction and fundraiser. This year's event is on Saturday, June 7th from 6:30 to 8:30 at the incredible Washington State Black Legacy Institute in West Seattle's Admiral neighborhood. This year's theme is Forward Together, driving home the need for unity in our mission to educate, engage, and elect Democrats. We're moving forward together to fight for working families, for union jobs, better wages and benefits, more affordable housing and healthcare, for climate resiliency, and the protection of everyone's civil rights. If you've never been to our auction before, there's plenty of food and drinks and good conversation to go along with the many experiences you'll have the opportunity to enjoy. Ticket sales are officially open. So if you have your phone ready, please scan the QR code. Make sure you lock in your early bird rate. Through the end of April, tickets can be purchased for as little as $60. You can also join us as a VIP to get access to an exclusive reception before the event, or sponsor the event at our partner, Elevate, or Inspire levels. Each tier of sponsorship comes with perks like recognition on signage and communications, a bonus ticket, automatic VIP reception access, and the best perk of all, one-on-one drinks with me at the place of your choice. We've already had a bunch of people buying tickets, but if like I said, if you have your phone ready, you can scan the QR code. The link should be in the chat. And Carla also sent out a special notice via email, so you can go ahead and click the links in that email as well. So I'd love to see every single one of you there. Without further ado, we have some business to take care of. For those who don't know, our organization's fiscal year begins on May 1st of each year and ends on April 30th of the next. So with April 30th of this year coming up in just a few weeks, it's time for us to adopt the budget for the next fiscal year. The budget, as it was sent to all of you, is the product of a process that started back in January when I proposed a budget to our ad hoc budget committee. This committee reviewed the budget and then made some amendments and published the draft to the board back in February. The board then spent a month between the February and March meetings reviewing that draft, and then at their meeting on March 19th made some additional changes as they passed it all on to you for consideration as our membership. Before I get into the rest of the stuff I want to say on this, I'll hand it over to our treasurer again, Rebecca, to go over all of the details of the budget.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. Hello again, everybody. Me back to talk about money once again. So what I put on this slide here is just, as we all, I think, know and believe, budgets should be a statement of our values and our priorities. So I wanted to just put on the slide the 3 high-level activities and actions that were in the Blueprint for Progress, our strategic plan that Jordan presented at a previous meeting. That we should be activating our base to be involved in the party, activating our base to be better informed on policy and politics, and activating our base to support candidates and policy. And my hope is that as we go through the budget, you will see some of that reflected, in particular in the places where we might be spending or proposing, I should say, for your consideration, spending a little bit more money than we have in years past. Next slide, please. All right, let's start with the revenue side. So in order to achieve our goals and priorities, we need money, to state the obvious. And what we're going to walk through now is the changes between fiscal year 2024 and 2020, what we're proposing for 2025. And I'll share some of the thinking and the why behind what we're proposing as we go through. In that first line, bank and card fees, this is something that just naturally happens year to year, that we both incur this on the expense side and we quote unquote raise as revenue on the other side, revenue side of the shop. This is transaction fees for when you process your membership, for example. Some folks opt to have that covered, and that shows up as revenue on our ledger. In the past, we just haven't noted it in this budget format. So we're doing that here. Carryover, as I shared earlier, we're pretty close. We are easily going to be at $17,000, if not $18,000, which is our goal. And we will recalibrate the budget based on the actuals once we hit May 1. Change makes sense. That and what we're getting to the fundraising buckets. These are places where you're going to see we're proposing or anticipating that we will raise more money than in years past. Change makes sense. We talk about it every meeting, and I know we're thinking about other ways to bring that into the organization, and $3,000 feels like a reasonable goal. On the fundraising side, we now have a fundraising chair again. Shout out to Lisa. And so, yes, you'll see a big jump from the auction, $10,000 last year to $22,000 this year. I do want to note that $20,000 or $22,000 is consistent with years prior, right, when we have a fundraising chair in that dedicated capacity. So this seems like a big change from last year to this, but in the bigger historical look at the organization, not so much. And Lisa has some other ideas up her sleeve. That's where the other fundraising total comes into play of $5,000. Membership dues, that represents a 25% increase from what we achieved or probably will achieve in 2024. That is a reflection of one of our main priorities, which, I'm sorry, reading the chat, one of our priorities, which is to bring in more members, right? So this is our aspiration, and so we should be setting a slightly higher goal here. And the other thing I just want to point out, the service project, that looks like it doubled, but $2,000 is actually on par with our actuals. That money, as a reminder, comes into us as donations and then goes right back out the door for whatever organization and project we are supporting. This all in sum brings us to $76,000 and a little change. Next slide, please. All right, and now expenses. 66,000 of them in total. Different than revenue, I won't go line by line because there's also not as much variance necessarily, but I'll highlight some of the places where there is a more significant variance that we're proposing. The first one would be campaign contributions. Supporting candidates is one of the top ways we achieve our priorities. And so this makes sense that it's just in our whole budget, one of our biggest line items. There are also a ton of races this year. Everything from, we just heard from the mayor, we have city council races, city attorney, our two legislators who were appointed into new positions have to run at the end of the year, and the list goes on and on and on. So this actually $9,000 will not get us necessarily very far, but it's a way to support all of the candidates and races that we have on our minds. And there's a post-primary reserve fund here in recognition that there may be a case where a candidate we endorse doesn't make it through the primary, though we hope they do. We would want to have some funds if we choose to endorse another candidate. This would not be used if there's not a reason to use it. And the other big change is on the auction. As they say, you got to spend money to make money. And this is a not even fully proportionate increase from considering the amount of money we intend to raise. It's actually a little bit less, but a reasonable increase for the amount of money we're hoping to bring in. Next slide, please. All right, on this slide, you see a ton of our priorities from mobilizing our base, that's membership and outreach, activating our base and supporting policy and candidates, PCO line items. On membership, if we are fundraising at the level we anticipate by the end of the calendar year, we'd like to propose taking the opportunity to invest a little bit more in our members through our awards and holiday party. With all things in this budget, I should name too, our biggest revenue moment of the year is our fundraiser, which is happening very early in our fiscal year. So if we are on track, all is well. If we are off track with our revenue, we will revisit our budget and make sure that we make the necessary changes so we are fully balanced. Point being that some of these things, like spending more on our holiday party, if we're not raising enough money, we can, of course, come back to you with a new budget proposal. But I think it is a achievable goal to do this. PCOs, the PCO line item is higher. I'll change hats to my PCO chair hat. We're hoping to, one of our goals this year is to bring in a significant more number of PCOs. So to make sure that they have the training, resources, support that they need, this budget line item is a little higher than in years past. And then on outreach, we're hoping to be in more places and creating more opportunities to meet potential members. And shout out to Phil, who I know has some big ideas cooking there. Last but not least, on the service project, again, this is the $2,000 there is closer to what we actually end up spending in expenses. You saw the $2,000 in revenue on the other slide. Next slide. Are we having fun? We're almost done. This is the last one, just one more. Bank fees, like I mentioned at the top, this is just something that we incur. And we think that what Jordan did, the number crunching, thank you, Jordan, $3,800 is a little bit closer to what we actually experience in actuals when it comes to processing fees, or will, as we have bring in hopefully more members. And we're looking good. And then you get to that legal fees line item and you probably go, whoa, $10,000, what's that about? This is purely a risk mitigation strategy on our part. The last time Trump was in office, this is before my time living in Seattle, but my understanding is that our LD and several other LDs were attacked by outside organizations, and we needed to seek some legal counsel. We have since taken another mitigating step, which is to hire a compliance treasurer who does some of the back-end compliance processing for us, as the name suggests. But Jordan thought it prudent, and I agree, to just have this line item in here just in case we need it. Hopefully not funds we ever have to tap. Next slide. And with that, here is our just high level overview. We're talking about $76,000 in total revenue, $66,000 in total expenses. We're hoping to lead with fiscal responsibility, inspire involvement in the organization and inspire investment in the organization through our efforts. And the output being that our members, our community, our candidates feel invested in by the organization. Jordan, do I have time, or is it within Robert's rules to ask if there are questions?
I was going to go over a couple more things, just
Yeah, go ahead.
broad thoughts, and then we'll get into questions. I'm expecting there will be some, a lot of dense material. So yeah, our budget, as with any, includes the two categories of revenue and expenses. So going into this budget process, we had 3 goals for each of those categories. So for the input goals, those included leading with fiscal responsibility, as Rebecca mentioned, and then also inspiring involvement and investment in the organization. So to demonstrate our commitment to lead with fiscal responsibility, we set the goal of carrying over at least 18,000 from the 2024 fiscal year. So doing this takes some of the pressure off of our other input goals with regard to hitting our overall revenue targets. As far as inspiring involvement in the organization, that's really all about authentically growing the membership. So by getting out into the community, communicating our vision, and building coalitions, we expect to build this movement into something that can meaningfully affect change, both in this term and beyond. And while we grow the membership, we also want to earn financial commitments from our members and others by being the type of organization that people see as a worthwhile investment. People have certain expectations of the Democratic Party, and I think since November, those expectations have grown. We want to make sure that we're meeting those expectations. Our output goals include investing in our members, our community, and our candidates. Hitting our input goals will significantly or will drive significant funding into the areas of work that matter most to organizations like ours. So one of the biggest areas of investment in our membership is through the work of our membership and hospitality committee. So this includes things like time and space to gather and celebrate, access to resources and engagement opportunities, and then ways to recognize all of your contributions to the success of our organization. Another huge area of investment is community, and these are the dollars that allow us to connect and engage with people outside of the organization to build bridges across our district. Specifically, we're talking about programs and community partnerships, outreach and visibility, and donations to other nonprofit organizations, as well as our service project. And then the third and the largest individual category of spending is on candidates and campaigns. And as Rebecca mentioned, we have a ton of candidates that we're going to be looking at this election cycle. Altogether, we plan on spending over $17,000 on elections without that $2,500 post-primary reserve. But that included, we're looking at 20 grand in total campaign investment. This year, we're looking at 24 local races, not including some of the more niche, like special purpose districts that don't usually seek our endorsement, but there is a possibility for endorsement there. And it's going to take commitments of that size to make sure that we have strong progressive Democrats securing public office at every level and in every branch of government. Before we get into motions, does anyone have any questions about what we've just gone over? Not seeing any hands pop up.
I'm trying to pop my hand up. It won't go.
Okay, what's up, Julie?
I have a big question about the budgeted income for Change Makes Sense at $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
That is beyond anything we've ever gotten before. I mean, it is like out of the ballpark. I don't see how that could possibly happen. It's been like 300 in a year, not 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I have.
Is the question how we plan to hit 3,000?
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to do that?
by promoting it as a way for people to invest in the organization beyond membership dues.
Well, it'd be
Because we
great
come
if that
across people,
happened, but I
yeah,
think it's
it would.
unrealistic.
Okay.
Way
We went through a process as a budget committee and as an executive board, and it was felt across the board that it was a reasonable expectation considering how we expect to move through this term.
Well, it'd be great if that happens.
Yes, it will.
And then I had one other question. Regarding the legal fees at $10,000. What is that based on?
Based on our past experience with dealing with litigation during the Trump administration. So back when I first got involved, which was 2018, we were in the midst of a lawsuit. I don't know if he's just an individual or someone working within an organization, but he was going and filing lawsuits against local party organizations and elected officials, alleging compliance violations. And we were having to pay a lawyer as an organization to fight those legal battles. And in 2019, which was the first full year that we were that I was involved with a budget of dealing with those legal issues, we spent $10,000 on fighting that legal fight. And the same person, blanking on his name now, but the same person who was
our friend
filing
Glenn
those-
Morgan.
Yeah, it was
Glenn
Glenn
Morgan.
Morgan.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes.
Because I wrote
Glenn
the
Morgan, who was
checks. Yeah.
so Glenn Morgan, who was doing this back in 2018, 19, and 20, is now doing it again to local elected officials. Actually, our very own senator is now facing a lawsuit from Glenn Morgan. So the Trump presidencies have a habit of emboldening people to do crazy things, and this is one of those crazy things that we're preparing for. Summer, I see your
Okay.
hands up.
Okay, understand. Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys for this budget. It's really thorough and I appreciate all the work that went into it. And kind of armchair quarterbacking, but I have experience in this. Has anybody reached out to Zoom to see if they will offer a discount? And has there been any interest in accepting payments through Zelle or Venmo to reduce those credit card processing fees?
I've not personally reached out to Zoom. I know that in terms of how we process payments, there's a certain mechanism that we have to use to accept payments because they have to link with the software that we use on the background. Carla has more experience with this, so she may be able to speak more accurately to the issue than I can.
Yeah, I can speak to both of those actually. When we set up our Zoom account, we did not qualify for any sort of nonprofit or, reduced fees. We, of course, haven't talked to them. We've just continued to use this for the past 5 years. So I don't mind reaching out to our Zoom person to see if we can get a reduction there. They tend to not do it for political organizations, but I can certainly ask. As far as the payment types, it's a very long, detailed story, but we have to use NGP for all money that we receive, which is a tool that is offered by the national and state parties. Just for compliance purposes, everything has to go through a particular system, and those pay types are not approved and integrated in that software. So that's why we kind of have what we have.
Thanks for that reminder. I'm completely thinking about this from the private sector and completely forgot that our money needs to be tracked.
Yeah. Great questions.
Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, not seeing any more hands. So is there a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2025 budget?
I move. It's Carla Rogers.
Thank you, Carla. Is there a second?
Second, Roxanne Thayer.
All right, is there any debate on the adoption of the budget? Anyone feel the need to speak for it? Okay, is there any objection to the adoption of the budget? Any objection to the adoption of the budget? Okay, hearing none, we've adopted our fiscal year 2025 budget. Before we move on, we have some resolutions to get to, but I see Victoria in the chat. You to get a comment, or is that your comment is the preceding message?
Yeah, that's right. I was just noting that Act Blue is able to use Venmo, so I'm not how they're able to track. I don't know. I'm just curious. That's all.
Okay, thank you. So for resolutions, so this is the last bit of business for tonight. And so these are resolutions that were sent to the membership with a due pass recommendation from the board. Yeah.
Sorry, are we not going to vote on the budget? I'm sorry, did I just completely
I
blink
asked
on
if there
that?
was any objection, and I asked if there was any objection, and no one said anything. So we
Okay,
just went
so
by
we're not going to
acclamation.
use the ballot. Okay, cool.
No, we're good. So is Ann Martin, are you on the poll? Quickly scanning that. I do not see Ann. Okay, so
Is out of the country.
Yeah, Anne is
Joanne,
in
she had
Spain,
popped
but
into the meeting for a second, but she ducked out. So is someone else from the Resolutions and Endorsements Committee prepared to introduce these?
we kind of divided it up. I have restoration of constitutional order. I think Ted has separation of church and state. I'm not
First
sure.
one
who
I have on my
has-
list. First one I have on my list is defending transgender rights.
Mhm.
That's me.
Okay, awesome.
Hi, Hannah Cameron.
Okay,
Okay.
you can go ahead, Hannah.
Okay, great. So this resolution is it is actually a resolution that I am a sponsor of. One of the things that we have noticed is that unfortunately under this new administration at the federal level, we've seen an erosion in the safety and security of folks who identify as LGBTQ plus. So this is a resolution that reaffirms our district's commitment to these individuals, and it also grounds that in some of the legal precedents that do exist currently. And it asks at the end that our current elected officials not only oppose any legislation that's being put forward by others in our government to press and marginalize these folks, but to actively work against that and to not just rely on the legal precedents that are in existence, but to propose actual legislation to further codify some of these rights. I hope that we'll pass this. It's highly in accordance with our stated party platform. And it's an opportunity for us to not just use our voice to stand in solidarity, but to push for actual action that is meaningful. Thank you.
Jordan, are you going to pull the resolution up so that everyone can see it? Or someone?
I can try. It's usually difficult to read on a shared screen.
looks perfectly viewable.
Yeah, some people are working off phones and stuff, so.
Well, that's their choice.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's hard to read on a shared screen, especially since I have to scroll up and down for you to see the whole thing.
I've also put a link in the chat to the resolution if you are at a place and on a device that would allow you to just pop it open and look at it and read it directly.
Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
I'd like to move to adopt it. Colton Myers here.
Thanks, Colton. Is there a second?
Second, Rachel.
Thank you. Colton, since you made the motion, you're welcome to speak for the adoption of the resolution if you'd like to.
Oh, I guess I won't say too much other than it was stated beautifully. I think as a queer person, it is no surprise that our transgender community is being attacked vigorously and outright erased. And it's important right now that we acknowledge that and that we stand up for them. So I hope we move this resolution forward.
Thank you. Is there any speaker against the adoption of the resolution? Any speaker against? Okay. Is there anyone who is who objects to the adoption of the resolution? Anyone who objects to the adoption of the resolution? All right, seeing none, we will consider that resolution adopted. Next one on my list here, going back up, is the restoration of constitutional order.
And I've got that one. This is funny. And this, as we all know, that Trump has done nothing except jackboot his way across the Constitution since he got into office. This resolution points out that he is overstepping his constitutional authority and, for instance, taking away Congress's or usurping Congress's Article I power to spend and using executive orders to counter the Constitution. And trying to end birthright citizenship is just one example. He's been bypassing the rules of democracy by having people like Elon Musk creating jobs and authority for Elon Musk that doesn't actually exist, that he is disbanding essential agencies and creating new ones, firing civil servants in a way that violates constitutional powers and civil service protection. This harms the ability of our government to serve and protect the interests and lives of Americans. And he and his billionaire buddies and corporations are corrupting the government through ignoring ethical standards and conflict of interest rules, such as the Emoluments Clause in the Hatch Act. They're thwarting public knowledge of their actions by limiting press access, for instance, banning the Associated Press from the White House press room and the presidential plane until the court yesterday ordered them not to do that. So this resolution then asks that it be resolved that we urge our senators, Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell, and Representatives Jayapal and Smith to use every possible procedural method, including the filibuster, to oppose key congressional actions, some of which have passed already, like raising the debt limit, but they still have to approve a budget, and they're still having to approve some nominees. and do this until Republican legislators step up and reassert their own authority. And further resolved to support Senators Murray and Cantwell and Representatives Jayapal and Smith and Governor Bob Ferguson and Attorney General Nick Brown to engage in all possible efforts to obstruct this authoritarianism and to restore the constitutional order and the rule of law. We have already passed this at the county level. The King County Democratic Central Committee passed this at its February meeting.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I move to adopt the resolution. This is Roxanne Thayer.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel. Roxanne, being the one making the motion, you're welcome to speak to the motion if you'd like to.
Yes, I think it's sad that we have to work at engaging and empowering our elected officials to do these sorts of actions, but clearly it is essential, and I think we all completely support this one. Thank you, Bunny.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Is there any speaker against the resolution?
This is Carrie Sikorsky. Can I speak? Not against it, but with a question, I guess, for clarification.
Sure.
Is it too late to, I didn't hear anything addressing tariff, which are very dangerous, and Congress should be. I know that our Senator Cantwell introduced a bill to restrict the administration, and I don't know the details about it, but tariffs are such a huge part of the problem right now and seem to have fairly unanimous opposition. It seems like they ought to be woven into this, and I may have overlooked here, I may not have heard it right, but it just seems too important to omit.
It doesn't mention, let me see, tariffs, but it does talk about, it just covers in general constitutional, the powers of Congress, to reassert the powers of Congress. I truly don't know what role Congress plays in tariffs.
Well, he's bypassing Congress, but as I understand, he's bypassing Congress by under the Emergency Wars Act or something like that. And he declared that the fentanyl, Canada is at war with us because they're not, restricting fentanyl. It's just, it's absurd. And he's being sued actually by one of the Koch brothers and the guy from the Federalist Society. I mean, he's being sued on the right because it's illegal. And of course, business interests are greatly harmed by this. It's going to turn into massive unemployment and another recession. It's only a matter of time. And I think Senator Cantwell recognizes it, but it seems like Democrats ought to be talking about tariffs. And I think
Yeah, if you know, I mean, I don't know how to amend this because I don't know Congress's role
I
in
think that
tariff. So I would need to know that before I could do anything.
Well, Bunny, the resolution asks for Congress to reassert themselves, and
Right.
that's what Cantwell did. And that's what it speaks to Congress asserting itself and taking a stand against what's going on in general, and that would include tariffs. So I think at this point we can't amend it, and I think it covers it actually. And also he decided to, after he posted that it's a good time to jump into trading, he suspended the tariffs.
He
So
suspended
it's market manipulation going on. But yeah, I think it covers it.
Carrie,
I
this
thought
is
it did too.
yeah, Carrie, this is Hannah. I'm on the resolutions committee. I can't raise my hand, unfortunately, because I am a co-host. But I just want to give you kind of like two pieces. I think that sum up a little bit of this conversation, that kind of the back and forth, which is unfortunately, tariffs are not unconstitutional. And since this resolution is really aimed at just restoring what is in the Constitution, I don't think that amending this resolution to include tariffs would be appropriate. Like, it would just kind of take it away from a single topic to a multi-topic thing. That said, we as a committee love to have members submit resolutions to us.
Yes.
Feel free, Anne is out of the country, but feel free to message me, message Bunny, Ted, Chris. We've been on the committee for a while now, and we'd love to help kind of provide any guidance if you want to draft one of those. I think that'd be completely reasonable. Oh, and
Yeah,
Graham just texted me, like me. Sorry,
yeah,
Graham.
I love that for things that are specifics, because this week it's tariffs, but next week he will come up with something else that we haven't put in here. So
Julie, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you. He did an executive order regarding the tariffs based on him calling an emergency, which the president can do, but it's up to the Congress to do tariffs. So he overrided them by calling this whatever emergency thing that he did. So when it says in the beginning that he blatantly contradicted our Constitution through executive orders, that's what he did, but he didn't because he called that emergency thing.
Call for the question.
So I think that the resolution covers that because he did the executive order. So I think it covers that. I think it covers all of it. If that made sense.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Call for the question.
I guess we can try this by acclamation like the other one. Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution as it's drafted? Any objection to the adoption of the resolution as it's been drafted?
And Jordan, sorry, before we close the vote, this is a do pass, correct?
Yes.
It's adopting.
The recommendation from the board was do pass, but we're
Yes.
yeah, we're taking the action for the body is not to, I mean, it's to pass it, but we don't need to add that clarification.
Have to approve it. Okay.
And just to wrap up, one thing that it says that there's an article in the Constitution Daily blog that says that while the Constitution grants Congress the power to levy tariffs, in recent years, as a result of certain laws Congress itself has passed, the president and the executive branch have controlled when and how tariffs are placed on goods entering the United States.
Okay, so is there any objection to, well, this is the third time, any objection to adopting the resolution as it's been drafted? Okay, seeing no objection, the resolution is adopted. The last one on my list is separation of church and state.
Thank you. If you'd allow me to speak on this, this was a resolution submitted to us from someone outside of the 34th. And so I put my name on it because I thought it was an important topic. And I thought it was something that we should support. The gist of this is that they're looking back at the idea of where separation of church and state came from at the time our country was founded, and they looked at the idea that came from Britain regarding this topic. And some people, this has been a long going debate, especially in the Republican Party, to be honest with you, about whether the idea of the separation of church and state is designed to protect the church from the state or the state from the church. And I think that the founding fathers, and I hate to say the founding fathers because they were a very diverse group of people that had a lot of different opinions, but the overwhelming idea was that the idea was to protect churches from churches, because what they saw happening in Britain was that the Anglican Church that was created as a article, as an item of convenience by a monarch, was using their state sponsorship to impose their will on other churches. And that's critical. And I'm just, for sake of, it's saying, knowledge here, I'm not a religious person. I don't really follow any religion. But what we don't want to do is allow some church to get a hold of a sponsorship provision of our government, and I can see the Trump administration doing this, and allowing them to inflict their beliefs on other churches. And so that's what the whole idea of separation of church and state is let churches have their own rights to follow their beliefs, under their doctrine, and not interfere with each other. And I think that, in the crazy times that we live in, that it would be relevant for us to support this and make a strong, hard border between church and state. So that's where this came from. Again, it was forwarded to us by someone outside the LD that needed a sponsor. I jumped in. I think it was worthwhile.
Thanks, Ted. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll
Is there a
move.
motion to,
I'll do that. Who? I will. Roxanne Thayer.
is there a second?
Gail Summers, I'll second.
Thank you, Gail. Roxanne, since you were the one making the motion, you're welcome to speak to it.
Okay, thank you. There is a section in here, I'm not finding it right now to quote, but that talks about the separation of church and state and how it affects us. And most of you know that we have, our state legislature has, for the fifth time, not been able to pass regulations or identify a regulating body in the government to regulate mergers and acquisitions in the healthcare market. And currently, over 50% of our hospital beds in Washington state are controlled by conservative Catholic corporations. And this does speak to that to some degree. And it is essential that we make this difference. So thank you. Thanks, Ted, for bringing it forward.
Thanks, Roxanne. Is there a speaker against the motion to adopt the resolution? Any speaker against the motion to adopt the resolution? Okay, seeing no speaker against, we'll try this one by acclamation as well. Is there anyone who objects to adopting the resolution as it's been drafted? Any objection to the adoption of the resolution? Any objection to the adoption of the resolution? Okay, seeing none, we will consider that resolution adopted as well. That wraps up our business for the evening. Before we move into go to the order, couple of things. I just want to take a second to acknowledge what we had at the beginning of the meeting. What we saw from that person is something that completely violates the standards that we set forth in our code of conduct. And I very clearly understand that folks were offended and hurt, and understandably so, by what was said by that person. So we're planning on addressing the situation further with the board and to see how we can be better prepared for situations like that in the future. Balancing our desire to welcome in a broad audience, but also recognizing when we have problems and addressing them quickly in live situations like this. Last thing is that we do have a deadline coming up for membership. If you would like to vote in our June endorsements meeting, our bylaws that were adopted last month require we have a 60-day requirement for folks to join 60 days prior to that endorsement vote in order to actually vote in that endorsement meeting on the business of endorsing. So that deadline is this Saturday, the 12th. So if you are still in the meeting and you're not a member, first of all, congrats for sitting through all this stuff. But Saturday is the deadline to join and become a member. Link is in the chat. But if you also know anyone who would be interested in participating in the endorsements process, feel free to share this link with them, bring them into the organization so that we can get more folks involved. With that, we can move into the good of the order. So if anyone has anything, feel free to go ahead. Anyone for good of the order?
Yes, Elizabeth Heath.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yes. Okay. Well, Thursday, the 24th of April is the monthly meeting of the West Seattle Democratic Women. We were so impressed by Roger Evans when he presented before a recent 34th LD Democrats meeting that we invited him to be our guest presenter. And it's Thursday, the 24th. We're going to have a discussion group at 5 o'clock talking about taxes and what good are they and what's a progressive versus a regressive tax, etc. Dinner will be at 6. The food at the golf course, which is where we hold our meetings, has been superb. And then 6:45 will be the presentation until 8 o'clock. So Roger Evans is the curator of the Washington State Black Legacy Institute. You can, if you're on our distribution list, you will get an invitation. Otherwise, please contact me at the following email address: P as in Paul, URR, F as in Frank, ULL at AOL.com. Thanks, and hope to see some of you at our meeting.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Anyone else for good of the order?
Yes, Chris. First, I want to say, Jordan, thank you for the words. And my advice is that when something like that happens and we fail to either take action quickly and or acknowledge that it happened quickly, waiting till the end of the meeting just only made me more furious, by the way. Only gives that more fuel, only then makes me walk away, and I'm sure others, with a little more resentment. Again, this is the second time in a Democratic meeting something like this has happened, and the leadership has failed to respond. I don't know if it's just not on the radar or blind to it or just whatever it is, but it just makes me think, I'm not sure what's missing, that this is the sort of thing in a state level meeting and in a local meeting. This is the second time where I've been bombarded by this and had to just sort of yell to speak out because it just sort of quietly sort of crept by, or people were saying, well, I wasn't sure if that was the right thing to say. It's like we're blind to it despite some of the work that we do. And I don't know what it takes to sort of bring that back around, so that it's just traumatizing to hear that over and over again, and then particularly in places where you think it's fairly safe. So my advice is, particularly after someone really speaks loudly about it, is to not wait until the end to acknowledge it, but to acknowledge it as in its real time as it occurs. That's all I'm going to say.
I don't want to argue about this much in this meeting, but to be fair, Rachel did say something in the moment and we still had argument over it. So we're gonna plan,
Okay,
we're gonna work on some
we won't
things to
argue.
address it in the future, but that person was muted twice and then kicked from the meeting. That's the process that we've used in the past, even in in-person meetings, when we've had disruptions like that. So if there's something, new things that we need to introduce, we can do that. But that's a conversation to have offline, especially as leaders in the organization, and not hash them out during good of the order at the end of a meeting.
Actually, good of the order was designed specifically for that, but I won't argue. We will hash this out at the board meeting because I still think you're missing something. Okay.
And Roxanne.
Thanks, Chris.
In to interrupt as well.
Anyone else for good of the order? Colton?
I just wanted to say really quickly, a huge shout. I know she's not here, but I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Rep Thomas today. We had our strike, or not necessarily a strike, but a walkout of sorts as state employees, and Rep Thomas and Rep Lisa Parsley came to join us, and Rep Thomas spoke very emphatically about supporting us state employees and making sure that we are not furloughed, that we don't have our negotiated contract ripped up by the governor, and that we maintain our healthcare collective bargaining rights. So I just wanted to give her a huge shout out. Even though she's not here, we're in really good hands, and I was really proud to see her there today.
Thanks, Colton. Anyone else? Good of the order? All right, not seeing any more hands pop up. So with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 8:44. Thank you all for coming.